Hey guys, what's going on? I am super excited to nerd out this live stream. And I got my computer fixed. Yay. I had to order a new hard drive for it. And I installed the new hard drive myself. I had to install Windows to the hard drive. I didn't know I was going to have to do that, but I did it. And I was very proud of myself. I thought I should get a job with a Geek Squad afterwards. Still trying to get everything set back up. Give me 1 second. Oof. Anyways, that's good enough. So yeah, my computer's working again, and it's working much better with the new hard drive. So I'm excited about that. I think I'm gonna turn this lamp off. That's better. That is better. Okay. Sweet. How are you guys doing? I'm going to pull this up on my phone so I can make sure it's running on Patreon. Today we're going to talk about zodiacal neuroscience, specifically the autonomic. Hey, Amber, the autonomic nervous system. Okay, cool. Everything is good. I don't think I'm going to have to share my screen or anything, so you're just going to look at me talk for a second. What is the autonomic nervous system? Well, it's the part of us that basically regulates our awakeness and our calmness. It regulates our sleep versus wake cycle. There are 3 different ways that it does this body to brain signaling. Our heart rate, our gut rate, and our breathing rate. So if you think about the way your heart functions, the way your digestive system functions, and the way your pneumatic system, is that what it's called? Pneuma, your breathing cycle, your breathing system. That's our new dog. We do these things unconsciously. So the autonomic nervous system takes care of everything that runs in the background as far as keeping our body alive, right? And we need that because if we had to think about making our heart beat, making our lungs work, making our food digest, it would be too much. If we were made to do that, then it wouldn't be too much, but we're not made to do that. So it is too much for us. So these are the things that your autonomic nervous system takes care of. I'm looking down because I'm looking at my notes. In the same way, it also handles responses, or not responses. I think reactions is a better word. I think respond is something that's a little more intentional. We choose how we respond to things. A reaction is something that's sort of outside of our control. So an example of this would be if you run around, your heart reacts by speeding up. If you put food in your system, your digestive system reacts by digesting that food. If you take in a breath, your body reacts by sending oxygen and everything else to where you need to get to where it needs to go in your body. There are some innate functions that we have, some innate drives, innate responses, like your fight or flight. The things that you are, your bonding instincts, the things that you are connected to emotionally, and your perception, your ability to take in data, information, and try to put that back out into the world, sort of how you how you perceive the world, how you respond to the world, how you move in the world. This is Mars, Venus, and Mercury. Mars is your fight or flight response. It's one of the you're born with it, so it's one of the very first things that we learn to work with. This is the Aries place. The 4 signs, the first, let me stop. Breathe. This is the first time that I've talked about this out loud, so I have to order my thoughts. If you look at the elements through the zodiac, you see them repeated 4 times. I should probably show you a picture so you can see a visual. Let me grab a picture real quick. Surely there's a picture in here. In the only astrology book you'll ever need by Joanna Martine Woolfolk. I love this book. It was one of the first astrology books I got, and I still reference it. So if you're looking for something that's beginner friendly and also has lots of information that you can use to sort of where do I go from here type stuff, this is a great book to have. Where's all my other stuff? You know what? I know I have a picture in here. I just want you to see the signs. I'll use this. Okay, this is my natal chart, but we're going to use it. No, that's not good. I'm just going to pull up a picture. Thanks, Amber. You got this, girl. I didn't think about using a visual aid for this. I should have. But it's all good. Let me just pull one up real quick. Zodiac chart. I said I wasn't going to share my screen, but I'm going to. Is that, why is it? That's one of my irks, is when they don't have Aries in the first house spot for these things. So oh, that's on somebody's Etsy. I can't use that. All these rules and regulations. That one's on eBay. Can I just get a plain astrology chart? We'll use this one. Let me share this. There we go. Okay. So this zodiac wheel right here. This is from this website, Alamy. If you guys want to go buy it, I think you can buy it. Aries is the first fire sign. Taurus is the first earth sign. Gemini is the first air sign. And Cancer is the first water sign. So as we move through these 4 spaces, so we start with Aries and we go all the way around to Pisces. As we move through these 4 spaces, this is the very first time we come in contact with these elements. So our response to them, our reaction to them is very inexperienced. It's naive, it's primal, it's natural. It's very natural. So fire and Aries looks like fight or flight. It's Mars. Mars is your fight or flight. Your bonding instincts. I am emotionally connected to this thing. It calms me down. It gives me what I need. Venus is your bonding instincts. It's how you regulate yourself. So Mars is how you assert yourself. It's the part of you that is self-assertive or is assertive. Taurus is your self-regulation, how you regulate yourself. That's that function of your brain. Mercury, which rules Gemini, is what it's your perception. It's what you do with the information that you're taking in and how you respond to the environment around you. Not just the physical things around you, but like words people say to you, things that, if you have a thought or if you're like, oh my gosh, what if this happens? Mercury is responsible for, it's like the facilitator, if you will. It helps you figure out what to do. Water, this is a first interaction with emotion. If you think about a little kid, like the first time they get their feelings hurt or they realize that they've hurt somebody else's feelings, they're like, oh no. You know what I mean? There's like this retreat into this cancer space, like, oh, let me go hide kind of thing. So these are the ones we're going to talk about, specifically Aries and Taurus, or Mars and Venus. I want to talk about Mars and Venus, and I want to talk about how Mercury helps this. So I can stop sharing and get rid of these. Awesome. So your autonomic nervous system uses Mars, Venus, and Mercury because we're using the parts of ourselves, the innate parts of ourselves that we're born with, to assert ourselves, to calm ourselves down, and also to know which way to go, which way to lean to. Andrew Huberman is a doctor of neuroscience. He's got, his whole goal is to put all these free scientific resources out there so people can learn more about themselves and how their body works so they can have a better quality of life, basically. If you don't know who he is, I encourage you to check out his YouTube. He's got like videos everywhere. He uses this really awesome analogy of a seesaw for your autonomic nervous system. On one side is alertness, and on the other side is calmness, right? Alertness would be Mars. It's the fight or flight. It's the sympathetic nervous system that makes you go, that wakes you up, that makes you react. A panic attack would be like extreme alertness on this side, extreme sympathetic nervous system response. The other side of that seesaw is the parasympathetic nervous system. Para means like beside, next to, adjacent to, that sort of thing. So they work in response to each other, like Mars and Venus, or like Aries and Aphrodite in mythology. They work next to each other. They exist next to each other. So Mars is what wakes you up. It's what makes you assert yourself. It's you go, you react, right? Venus calms you down, helps you self-regulate. You can also think about like fight or flight, rest and digest. I don't know if you've heard those words before. Like when you're resting and digesting food, you're sort of taking things in, you're calm. It's hard to digest your food when you're going and running, and your body physically has to be in certain states if you want certain functions to happen. For the most part, the autonomic nervous system is something that we have no direct control over. It can be affected by emotional dysregulation. When you're upset about something, when you're depressed, when you're anxious, when you're pissed off, when your emotions are dysregulated, it affects your gut health. It affects your heart rate. It affects how you breathe, right? So we tend to lean more toward one way or the other. This is what's really interesting. In order for it to do the seesaw thing, when do we need to be more awake? When do we need to be more asleep or calm? It has to have a hinge in the middle. It has to have something to balance on. Dr. Huberman calls this the hinge of voluntary control, because this is something that we have control over to some degree. So you can't control your autonomic nervous system in a direct way, but particular patterns of thought can control it to some degree. Or I guess if you're a monk, you can, never mind, that's for like way down the road later on. So this hinge of voluntary control is the particular thought patterns. This is Mercury. So on one side, we've got fight or flight, reaction, go, do, be awake, Mars. On the other side, we've got Venus, calm you down, regulate, just eat the food, sleep when you're tired, eat when you're hungry, chop wood, carry water, all that kind of stuff. Mercury is in the middle. Mercury is going to facilitate which way to go. It's going to decide the balance. So you have to think about your own interpretation of these signals you have coming into your body, your own perception of these signals that are coming into your body, right? Or the signals that your body is projecting out. And we're going to talk about how this relates to anxiety versus like exploration. You do have control over your perception. What do I mean by that, right? Somebody does something that pisses you off. Your immediate reaction, that's not your perception. That's Mars. That's your fight or flight kicking in, because you see this thing as a threat to you. So you're reacting to the threat. Perception has to perceive it. Like you have to sort of slow down. And actually taking a breath helps your perception. Taking a breath calms you down. And what is Mercury? It's air. It not only is Mercury air, Mercury is an earth too. So it's that breath-body connection that gives you perception, that gives you perspective. It allows you to get your body to a state where you can think about these things, right? We don't want to stay in airy space. That's no way to live. Then you're too high strung. Everything is anxiety in the airy space. We're constantly being threatened in the airy space because we don't know what's going on. We don't know how to calm down in the airy space. In the Taurus space, it's all calm. It's like, we're just going to stay here and do nothing. So this could look like, in the real world, anxiety, like chronic anxiety, or depression. You know, one, you're moving too much, like everything is, you're just overstimulated, and the other one is a complete lack of stimulation. Many people find that the level of autonomic arousal is either inappropriate or inadequate for the demands of stuff going on in their life. Like they have trouble leaning one way or the other. They feel overwhelmed, or they feel like underwhelmed. They feel like this is just too much. This is a threat to my well-being, so I'm just going to hide from it. Or, they want to like fight it. This is too much, or like there's just nothing going on. There's no, what is the point? I'm just not interested in anything. And you don't have to be like clinically anxious or clinically depressed to experience these things. And I don't have any degrees. I'm not a doctor, so just disclaimer there. Don't take my word for it, and don't use this as like medical advice or anything like that, because it's not. It's just some interesting stuff that I found parallels in, and I would like to share it. Even little things like You wake up and the kitchen's a mess. This is something I go through a lot because there's a few people living in my house, right? I've got older kids and a little kid and dogs. And so how I leave the kitchen when I go to bed is not necessarily how it's going to be when I wake up. Sometimes I respond to that with, this is too much. I can't deal with this. This is a threat to my well-being. And I want to like go crazy and clean it up and just kind of get mad about it. And sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm not even dealing with this shit today. It's overwhelming and I don't even want to do it. Neither one of those, like one would be an inappropriate response, like I'm over responding to it or overreacting. And the other one would be an inadequate response. So I'm underreacting to the situation. Because I can't just like leave it, but then screaming about it's not going to do any good. So little things like this, little situations, or if this is something that you find is like a pattern in your life and it is something that, you know, you want to talk to a professional about and get some help with. What neuroscience has found, like when you have trouble leaning into one or the other, when you feel like you should be responding more or you should be responding less, it's not the consequence of like your fight or flight being messed up or your self-regulation being messed up. It's the consequence of the hinge on that seesaw being dysregulated. So it's something to do with the way you're perceiving it. I feel like I should put this out there. This is not saying that, this is not like a victim blaming type thing. I don't want it to turn into that. This is a knowing your control, knowing the control that you have over the situation type thing. And I'm just talking about neuroscience here. So a lot of times, side note, personal, I feel like sometimes people might be overdiagnosed. Maybe it could lead to that. I'm not saying it does, but I'm just saying, like, hypothetically, I could see how it would lead to a misdiagnosis or overdiagnosis, saying that somebody has anxiety or somebody has depression, when really we just need to help them understand the way they're seeing it. Give them that power instead of making them feel like it's something that they have no control over, like, oh, something is wrong with me kind of thing. I think I always tend to lean toward empowering people instead of making them feel like something else is affecting them in a way that they can't do anything about. That's what I'm trying to say. That's funny, me. Okay. Sorry. So what, like, let's talk about this a little bit more. What does it mean when the hinge is dysregulated? Does it mean that you just need to think about it differently? Oh, the power of positive thinking. No, that's not what it means. Most people have heard of that's the part of your brain that you get, you have it, but it becomes very active, very developed when you're like in your late 20s. Right around the time of your Saturn return is when your prefrontal cortex develops in a way where you can really use it. This is the part of your brain that allows us to reason, allows us to understand. It's the executive function, right? It allows you to look at different rule sets, and it allows those rule sets to become flexible. There's a test called the Strong test where you have like flashcards, and the flashcards have like a word written in a specific color. So it might be like several, each card has a different word written in a different color. So the word dog might be written in blue, and the word cat might be written in red. So what you do is you tell people to just read the word they see, okay? And then you flip the rule set and you say, now just tell me the color that you see. This is an example of a change in the rule set, a flexible rule set, or being able to understand and reason different rule sets. So with little kids, you don't expect them to be able to see outcomes and possibilities like you do with adults, right? This is why it's kind of a miracle that any of us make it through our late teens and early 20s, because we have enough independence, enough like autonomy to put ourselves in these situations, but we can't see all the possible outcomes of the situation. We don't have that part of our brain fully developed yet that allows us to reason through all the possibilities, all the things that could happen, how it could be dangerous. We're just like, no, I just want to do it, because we're still working with like our lower limbic system in our brain more, like our amygdala and our hypothalamus and all that. That prefrontal cortex hasn't given us those reasoning capabilities yet. Teenagers don't understand. Like, I hated dress code when I was a teenager. I'm like, why are you trying to suppress my individuality? Why can't I just be who I am? I couldn't reason, and I couldn't accept those different rule structures that, well, in this setting, this is appropriate attire, and in this setting, this is appropriate attire. Like, it was stupid to me. I didn't have the brain function to understand it all the way yet. You can think of your prefrontal cortex as Saturn. Saturn sets the boundaries. It sets the restrictions. It defines things, right? It gives us the rule structure to work within, the boundaries to work within. So if you take away the prefrontal cortex in like an animal or a human, everything becomes like you default to these primitive, simple states. You default to fight or flight. You default to not being able to see the consequences of your actions. Everything is very immediate, right? You can't see the timeline, which is another thing Saturn is. It represents time, because time is a boundary. And there's a specific part of your prefrontal cortex. It's called the dorsal lateral prefrontal cortex. I won't remember these names unless I write them down. Maybe one day when I learn them well enough, when I'm familiar enough with them, I'll remember. So I don't expect anybody else to. I just know that I'm not throwing these words out here. Like, I expect you to know what I'm talking about, because I don't know all the ins and outs of them myself. But this thing called the dorsal lateral prefrontal cortex, it accesses our memory and it helps us calm down. So this crazy thing happens where when we access rule structures, that actually calms our body down. So when we can pause and take a breath to get our perception, and we can perceive these different outcomes, these different options that we might have, these different, you can think of each rule structure as like a sort of mini reality, right? Well, we could do this, or we could do this, or we could do this. So your prefrontal cortex, Saturn, gives shape and definition to each one of these realities. It structures it, right? Then you can think about your options. It does this really cool, like, it's sort of, it's a back and forth in your nervous system. Like, it doesn't just work one way. It doesn't just communicate from this one thing to another thing. There's actually a back and forth communication between those things. So what it does, one part of the, I'm just going to call it the left prefrontal cortex, is it sends a message that your body is feeling this way to your prefrontal cortex, so you can reason that out, so you can think about your different options. And then that part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, sends a message back, and it's like, okay, maybe this one would make you feel like this, or this one can make you feel like this. And it sort of transforms what would be just this reactive response to something to a true response. It keeps you from reacting and helps you respond. What does that mean? Like, of what use is that to us? Well, it helps us plan for things based on our physical state. It helps us know how to respond. So if you're triggered and you want to punch something, you might just punch it, right? If you're tired and you know you have things to do, but your body is tired and you just want to go to sleep, you might do that. This part of your brain, the left prefrontal cortex thing, says, well, hey, remember when we did this? Your body feels like this. But remember when we did this? We need to get this done. And before, when we pushed through, it helped us in this way. So it takes that reasoning part of your brain and it helps you make plans based on your physical state, right? It helps you sort of reason with your physical state instead of just reacting based on your physical state or what you perceive things to be. Like, this might not necessarily be a threat, or we might not necessarily need to do nothing about this right now. So it communicates how you feel physically, and it communicates all the different options you have, and it allows you to pick one of those, is kind of what it does. So it helps you sort out, is how you're feeling right now right for your circumstances? Let's go back to my messy kitchen example. Is me going crazy and being pissed off and cleaning the kitchen and fussing at everybody appropriate? Is that an appropriate response? Is that right for the circumstance? No. Is me just saying fuck it and doing nothing, is that right for the circumstance? No, that's not an appropriate response. It helps you turn the anxiety into momentum, into movement. So instead of being overwhelmed, it turns into a drive. Mercury. Instead of being anxious, facilitates, right? Instead of the energy just blah everywhere and you're just like, oh my God, can everybody just shut up for a minute? Or can everybody get out of my face? Or however you need to do to take care of that. It focuses that mercurial energy and turns it into motivation, which helps you. When you've got motivation and you've got perception, all right, you're able to facilitate which way to go. It's like a map, the map of your experience, right? That's what air is. So you can choose which path you want to take, which direction you want to take, because you see the options, right? You've calmed your body down, you see the options, and you can pick one. Dr. Huberman gave an example of like a triggering tweet, when he reads a tweet and he could just reactively type something back, and he's able to say, wait a minute, if I said this is going to happen. I could say nothing and this will happen, or I could just, delete my post or whatever, and that's one way. So he gives 3 types of responses that you can have. You can either stay put, you can back up, or you can go forward. When it comes to autonomic arousal, what do I mean by that? When your Mars gets flared up, or when when you start reacting, when you feel reactive to things, staying put has the lowest, it stimulates that reaction the least amount. Backing up stimulates it a little bit more. Going forward has the highest response, the highest level of autonomic arousal. When we move toward something that there's a hesitancy to, maybe because on some level we see it as like it could be a threat to us, or it is a threat to us. There's a little bit of fear involved. We can transform that anxiety into excitement. If we can lean into it. I guess the main point is knowing whether to lean into the alertness or the calmness, right? And for everybody, it's going to be different. Sometimes we have to lean into pushing forward. We have to lean into that anxiety a little bit to get ahead of it, to use it as motivation, as a drive to facilitate the things we want, the outcomes that we want. And sometimes we have to back off a little bit. And that's going to be different for different people. It's going to be different in different circumstances. But understanding that there is an appropriate response for you specifically, for me specifically. Each one of us has an appropriate response to these situations, and being able to find that appropriate response, and knowing when the response we have is not appropriate. Like that's one thing that I think about. I think that is sort of the whole point, is to be able to figure out whether or not our response is proportionate to the trigger. Where are we recognizing the control that we have over it? Are we having trouble leaning one way or the other? Are we having trouble calming down? Are we having trouble moving, not calming down? Perception is the key. The ability to perceive the different outcomes if we move one way or the other on that seesaw. Sometimes the perception itself can be overwhelming. And this is when it becomes anxiety. Anxiety shuts us down. Anxiety, neurologically speaking, puts you in that more primitive state of like the fight or flight response, or the self-regulation response, where instead of going forward, like it doesn't connect to your prefrontal cortex. So you're not able to see the different potential outcomes. You can only focus on what is going on right now in the situation. Like it takes the time, this could happen later because of this, that whole time aspect, it takes that out of it. And it puts you back in that very in the moment, here and now. All you can really focus on is how your body feels and how your mind feels. And like, anxiety is no fun. It puts us in that simple function where we stay in like Aries, Taurus space. And we don't move forward. We don't want to stay stuck in these spaces. We don't want to stay stuck in Aries. We don't want to stay stuck in Taurus. We want to be able to move all the way around the zodiac. Like it's a flow. It on big scales and small scales. Like every idea we have, every journey we take, like everything. It's sort of like the life cycle, the timeline of everything. It's entropy. Everything has a beginning and an end. So we don't want to stay stuck at the beginning. We want to be able to move through things and complete processes, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Anxiety keeps us from completing a process because it keeps us stuck in Aries and Taurus, and we don't want to stay stuck there. In like neuroscience and psychology and stuff, they have these things called, well, there's there's the top down process, and then there's the bottom up process, and like how our brain works. And when you engage the prefrontal cortex, your reasoning and stuff, your ability to think things through and see all the outcomes, that's called a top down process. And it's sort of like the top is controlling the situation. And it's trickling down to like your more primal desires, the Mars and Venus, like innate default states of just like rage or doing nothing. Top down says, okay guys, it's like, I think that's why it's called the executive function, because it's like, this is what we're going to do. We got this. I'm the leader and I'm going to help you through this, and this is what we're doing. Anxiety flips that and makes it go from a bottom up. So instead of your Saturn, your prefrontal cortex being able to sort of like lead you through this process, Mars and Venus in their default modes take over, and it's like, nope, we're not doing that. We're telling you what to do. And like that never works, right? There's a hierarchy for a reason. So when the things that are out of control start telling the leader what to do, then it becomes chaos. So they start leading the show, and it takes away your ability to reason and see those possible outcomes. That's what anxiety does. Another thing is, if you take away some of the function of the prefrontal cortex, like they've done studies where you can suppress that certain parts of your brain, not in like a way that hurts anybody or anything like that, but just using like magnets, and they've worked with people who have like a lesion on this part of their brain, or it's damaged in some way. If you take away the prefrontal cortex, if you take away the Saturn part, it's sort of like taking the governor off the engine, right? They've noticed that people become extremely accurate when it comes to motor function. So one of the ways they tested this was in shooter games. When you don't use certain parts, or you don't have access to certain parts of your prefrontal cortex, you become very accurate in shooter games. Like you can hit every target almost 100%, no misses, but there's no judgment. It takes away the judgment. So you can't recognize whether or not you're shooting an enemy on the game or somebody on your own team. You become very accurate motor skills wise, but there's no reasoning behind it. You just act. You become a machine. Like, I want to say like inhuman, but you go back to pure function. There's no thought process behind it. It's just function, function, function. So you can think of your prefrontal cortex as sort of like the screwdriver that tightens the hinge, the Mercury hinge. It tells it which way to go. Should we lean more this way or lean more that way? You can use the potential outcomes and your own judgment, your own value structure to say, like, should I lean more into this alertness, or should I lean more into this calmness? What's interesting about that is, if you look at air and earth as the elements progress through the zodiac, with earth you have Venus, Mercury, Saturn, and then with air you have Mercury, Venus, Saturn. Saturn is the last stop for both of those elements. So I like to think of it as prefrontal cortex, the screwdriver that tightens that hinge, because it regulates, it helps restrict or set the boundaries on. And when I say restrict, I don't mean suppress. That's different. You don't have to suppress something. Like when you're thinking about the potential outcomes, when you're reacting to something, right? You stop and you take a breath and you're like, well, I've got these options. And some of those options, you may have to suppress your reaction a little bit. But if you can create a new outcome or a new reality, if you can think about this new potential thing, this new perception, this new perspective, you could create one where you don't even, there's no reaction to suppress. Like you're not even reacting to this because your perspective on it is so different that there was no reaction in the first place. Just wake up like, oh, okay, whatever, kitchen's a mess. It's not a big deal. Your brain can do that thanks to neuroplasticity, right? We're changing our perception. So when I say Saturn restricts, it sets the boundaries. It gives structure too. So you can think of that as like a squeezing type boundary, or you can think about it as just, I'm going to create this new thing. I'm going to define this new thing. And there's no restriction in that. It's just the shape of it, right? The structure of it. So your prefrontal cortex is the thing that sets the hinge, tightens it or loosens it, defines the measure that it needs to be at, if you want to think about it like that. I was going to talk about the zone of proximal development, but I think I might save that one for another time. Do you have any questions about this? I feel like I've just been talking and talking. Is it making sense? I guess the main takeaway is, you've got Mars that is reacts this way, and Venus just wants to keep you calm and like, oh, everything's okay. I'm going to sit here on this pretty couch and eat grapes all day. Mercury is what moves you one way or the other, and Saturn is what helps you decide how much you need to be moved one way or the other. And breathing calms us down. Thinking about keeping an open perception, an open perspective. Like when we're very closed-minded, we're going to stay in those states of like, well, this is what I think, so this is the way it is. It keeps your focus so narrow that you can only see your perspective or your perception or this one perception. If you go see a therapist, that's being open-minded. You're open to someone else's perspective that makes you stop and think about something in a way you haven't thought about it. And when you think about that new way, when you consider it, when you engage your prefrontal cortex and your reasoning, that calms you down. That's crazy. How keeping an open perspective, how being open-minded to new ideas actually calms you down when you're in a situation that could, make you anxious or anything like that. Just thinking about the different possibilities calms you down. Thinking about the different options, the different outcomes calms you down. It's wild. It blew my mind when I learned that. But it also makes sense, because if you can get yourself to a place where you stop reacting and actually think about, okay, let me make a plan. Let me think about what are my options. Calms your body down, which has to be good for you, right? Because it's taking away it's lowering your levels of stress, like your heart, your guts, your lungs, that sort of thing. So it has to have some sort of health benefits too. I guess that's what they mean when they say stress is the number one killer. But yeah, that's what I got for today. Thanks for watching. I'm probably going to end up putting all this together in a way that's much more articulate. But today I just wanted to kind of talk about it and see what everybody thought, and get your input. Let me know what you think. Let me know if Let me know how I can do this differently if I need to, or if you've got thoughts and opinions on it. If you want to just start a conversation about it, that's cool. Yeah, that's what I got. So I will talk to you all later. Thanks for joining in.